Me again, I'm a boring old fat whiny woman, bonbon trip chin, wearing bad hair, doing obligation video time. Look, I am sorry about the video over the weekend. Audio was really bad. In fact, it was non-existent. So, got my bathroom done to where I'm almost ready to call it complete. Might put in a shower door, don't know. Other bathroom is just about completed and getting ready to demo the kitchen, which I'm not looking forward to because I know that put me down for a couple months. But I thought, well, I'll go ahead and redo it. I'll just redo it. Yeah, instead of messing with it. Now, all this came about when I called into question a man's doctrine and his so-called position as a prophet. He stated that he will accept his apology now because God used a wild donkey with Balaam. And I sat there and cackled a little bit. I giggled. I really did. And there's probably 3 other people know why I was over there giggling about it. They use that terminology. That's a but we're going to cover that. Listen, you're not arguing against me. You're arguing against Scripture. That is 1 Corinthians 13. Prophecy has gone bye-bye. We have the complete from the beginning of the world to the end of the world. We don't need anything in between. Also, if you know Scripture, God is not going to use a cardinal man singing about leaving his wife and children and her leaving her husband and children to get together in sin while he's on an album cover, while he was a practicing mystic at the time. I don't know if he still is or not, with the album cover being mystic, and he's giving you an orb. But this is about the rapture. Really? So, no, ain't gonna happen. But it's funny, like I said, it was funny that you used the term wild ass. Like I said, there's a couple people who probably recognize that and know why it's funny. We're going to cover it so everybody can be in on it. Well, you can get your terminology better. Let's look at some ass. Let's look at this. Let's look at some donkeys. Now, when I say ass, I'm talking about donkey in Bible. And Scripture actually covers a multitude of donkeys. A whole multitude. And they each have their own characteristics. And when somebody in Scripture says this person is like this ass, this person is like this ass, there's a reason they use these qualifiers to describe that individual. And we're going to look at this, and most in particular, we're going to look at the wild ass. First one that we see, first donkey we see, is the she-ass. Yeah. We see this if we go to Genesis 12 and 45, also in Numbers 22 and 1 Samuel and 9. The she-ass is most notably, the characteristic with her is her slowness. The she-ass is slow and much different than her male counterpart, which would be the male ass. And we see this if we go to Genesis 49, and also if you go to Deuteronomy 22, where the donkey and the ox are not to be yoked together. But when you look at the male ass, you'll see that this is the common beast of burden within the Old Testament, and it is known as being strong. It is a very strong individual. Now, with these donkeys, they have this particular air about them. There's something particular about a donkey. And when you talk about the domesticated ass in Scripture, these are the animals who have a particular spirit. And we'll actually look at the Scripture that actually has that in there. I'll give you the book and chapter. But the donkey has a particular spirit, and It wants to please its master. It will listen to the master, do what the master says. It'll go where the master wants. It wants to please the master. That's what makes the donkey so particular in Scripture. But we're going to look at another donkey that is totally different. We also have the colt, the ass's kid. And we'll see this, we go Judges 10, Genesis 32, and we also see this in Job 11, Isaiah 30. And yeah, it's just a kid. And we also see that in Leviticus 11 that the animal is unclean because it does not chew its cud. If we go to 2 Kings, we see, and also Genesis 12 and 30, and 1 Chronicles 27, and Job 1, and Job 42, we see that the donkey is considered a status symbol. It is an item of wealth. Great wealth is attributed when they say Job had 40 asses. Job had a lot of money. Job had a lot of assets. You get it. You see what I done there. But they were needed in this time. People relied upon the donkey. It was a beast of burden. It was a common beast of burden. And like I said, it had a particular spirit that wanted to please the master. We see that particular thing where it's wanting to please the master. We see that if you go to Isaiah 1, and I do believe it's 3 if I'm not mistaken. They're actually quite frequently talked about as being ridden upon. We also see that with Abram and with Balaam in Numbers 22, and the disobedient prophet in 1 Kings and 13. Judges 12, Exodus 4, 1 Samuel 23, and also if you look at Zechariah 9, you'll see that Christ will be coming riding upon an ass, the colt, and we see this come to fruition when we go to Matthew 21. Now with the ass that Balaam had, it was a dumb ass. It was a domesticated donkey that wanted to please the master, said, haven't I done many years of service for you? Ain't I pleased you? But it was unable to speak or communicate. Therefore, it was a dumb ass, a dumb domesticated donkey. Now there is one other, you also have your swift donkey mentioned in Scripture. But other than that, you do have another donkey type mentioned. And that is your wild ass. You see this if you go to Job 39, Daniel 5. The wild ass is noted for swiftness. And also if you go to Job 39, 6 through 8, 6 and 5, 11 and 12, Isaiah 32, Jeremiah 2, 14, 6. We're actually going to cover some scripture with that. Genesis 6 and 12. If you go to Genesis 6 and 12, it talks about the wild ass among men. And, let's actually look at the scripture that describe this wild ass. And it is odd you chose that term. It really, wow. Okay, let's go to Genesis 16 and 12. He will be a wild donkey of a man. His hands will be against everyone, and everyone's hand will be against him, and he will live to the east of all his brothers. You can't turn a wild donkey. A wild donkey will not listen to a master. A wild donkey is just that. It's a wild ass. Job 39 and 5, who sent out the wild donkey free, and who loosened the bonds of the swift donkey. And if we keep on reading on down, to whom I gave the wilderness for a home and the salt land for its dwelling place, he scorns at the tumult of the city. the shoutings of the driver he does not hear. You cannot make a wild donkey do anything, and I will sum this up in a minute. If you go to Job 6 and 5, does the wild donkey bray over his grass, or does the ox low over his fodder? Psalms 104 and 11, they give drink to every beast of the field, the wild donkey quench their thirst. Job 11 and 12, pay attention to this one. An idiot will become intelligent when the foal of a wild donkey is born a man. Job 24 and 5, behold, as a wild donkey in the wilderness, they go forth seeking food in their activity, as bread for their children in the desert. Jeremiah 14:6, the wild donkeys stand on bare heights. They pant the air like jackals. Their eyes fail. There is no vegetation. They go out in this wilderness in the salt land, and they don't even realize the shape they're in. That's what that's talking about. If you go to Isaiah 32 and 14, because the palace has been abandoned, the populated city forsaken, hill and watchtower. Well, hill and watchtower, that's kind of important. A little buzzword that floats around among people. Have become caves forever, a delight for the wild donkey, a pasture for flocks. They do not like civilization, and they cannot be harnessed. Daniel 5 and 21, this is talking about Nebuchadnezzar. He was also driven away from mankind. His heart, he was made like that of the beast. His dwelling place was with the wild donkeys. He was given grass to eat like cattle. His body was drenched with the dew of the heaven, until he recognized that the Most High God is ruler over the realm of mankind, and that he sets over it whom he wishes. And of course you got Hosea 8 and 9, for they have gone to Assyria like a wild donkey all alone. Ephraim has hired lovers. We also see Ephraim mentioned with Christ. Now, what's the big deal with the wild donkey? When a man is compared to a wild donkey in Scripture, he is one who will not be bridled, they will not be tamed, and he will not please the master. There is nothing you can do to get that wild ass to turn to God, to please God. They're doing their own thing and loving it, even though they don't realize the state they're in by refusing the master. That, my friend, is your wild ass. And I'm telling you, God did not use a wild ass for his purpose, except to have the wild ass described to us in Scripture. And every man who was compared to the wild ass was shown to have these characteristics. That's the only way God used the wild ass, buddy. I hate to make a point of that. Somebody who will not take lead, who will not listen to the master, will not please the master, and doesn't realize what state they are in. At your wild donkey. And I do hope you see the folly in that comment. Was wanting to make a comment to it, but like everything else, the comments disappear. Oh, you know, that's one thing I leave my comments up, kind of as a witness, things that were said. I don't know why you keep bringing those down. But anyway, I do want to point that out. Several things. First, Corinthians 13, the office is completed. The office of prophet is done. It's no longer needed. We have, from the beginning to the end, the full canon of Scripture. We have no need for a prophet nowadays. You do not see a prophet who is spot on. You do see people who are mediums who get this correct a lot more than people who claim they are prophesying or speaking for God. And that, I hope, opens your eyes to a lot of things. Also, God is not going, prophecy's done. Prophecy is kaput. It is finished. So why is God going to speak a prophecy when he said that when you got the full canon of scripture, he wasn't going to say it no more. He wasn't going to use it. So why have you got this tool of the devil being used to give prophecy to the church? It ain't going to happen because you don't know your scripture and you think a wild ass God's going to use it when he isn't. Anyway, I hope you do read your scripture and I hope you do come out of that nonsense because it is wrong. You know, this is it. Back against the wall, gonna leave my wife and family and sin, encourage everybody else to sin, and I'm gonna get my colon cleansed. Wow. Just wow. My cat sees it's a mess. I don't know why others can't. Anyway, people, I just want to point that out. There are a multitude of donkeys used in Scripture, and they each have their own characteristics. And when a man is compared to one or the other, there is a reason, and God does not use the wild ass. So anyway, as always, that's a little video, and as always, please read your scripture and have that fantastic day.